Hey there, hope you've been well. So it's been a while since my last update, therefore I thought it might be good to take a quick look at my portfolio to see how things have changed, to look at a little bit about the purchases I've made as well as what I've sold. And then I want to take a minute to reflect on my key learnings and how I intend to move forward based on that. So the very first thing to do is look at my portfolio. So previously, I was about 7% down and mentioned that I wasn't panicking. This proved to be a good strategy because although I remained in the negative for the next couple of weeks after that, right now I am sitting at about 2.8% in terms of gains, which again isn't fantastic, but I would rather be in the positive than in the negative. And it's been helping me to see that there's peaks and troughs because at one stage earlier this year, I think I was up about 30%. Okay, so if we take a look at my portfolio, we can see here that I have 13 investments overall, NEO being the majority of that, with about 30% of my money invested in NEO itself. And then we can see that I have a couple of new investments since my last portfolio update. So let's firstly note that I was previously down 7%, and we were able to weather that storm because I am now sitting at about 2.8% in gains. What I've actually done in the last couple of weeks is I've invested in just two new companies. So both of them are dividend paying companies, and that was a strategic decision because I think it would be good for me to have some dividend paying stocks. So just as a beginner investor, I want to kind of explain how I actually selected those companies. Firstly, I picked up some industries that I thought are doing well and have the potential to continue to do well in the future. So with that, I came up with medical technology and the automotive industry. So my first investment was in Volkswagen, and my other investment is in Medtronic. Now, I did only invest in one share in each of these companies for right now, but I also considered the dividend yield that they would be paying out. And my research told me that a good aim for dividend yield would be between 2 and 6%. And these two companies are paying out at the moment 2 and 3% respectively. So I have actually received dividend payment from both of them in the last couple of weeks, and I'm happy to report that for Volkswagen, for owning just one share, I was able to have a payment of €3.58, and for Medtronic, I was able to have a payment of 40 cents, again owning just one share. This feels like a really, really good return for me. I know that the amount and the money is very small right now. However, for doing absolutely nothing other than purchasing a share, I was able to make back an additional €4 in total on both of those company shares. I think the other side of it is these are also stocks that I think are going to grow and develop in future as well, so there'll be additional gains associated there. The other thing that I did, which I may regret a little bit already, is I sold my one and only share of Shopify. Now, there was some strategic thinking behind this, which was I had noticed a trend that Shopify will constantly increase to a peak, and then after that peak, it starts to decline in value, and then the whole cycle starts again. So what I was thinking is that I would be able to sell around the peak and then buy in again when it dropped back. My challenge is I've sold at 520. At that time, it did only peak to 1,520, 1,530. However, it hasn't declined quite to the extent that I was hoping, and at this point, I'm not sure if it will or not. So again, this really just further reiterates the buy and hold strategy that I keep talking about, but I'm finding it really difficult to actually implement. The challenge as a beginner investor is, in order to have money to just keep adding stocks when the prices go down, especially on a more expensive stock like Shopify, is a little bit challenging. However, it's not all bad news because I did sell Shopify at a profit, and so if I don't get back in, at least I have that money in my bank. I've earned that, and I can actually redistribute that somewhere else. So let's see what happens. But for right now, I honestly wish that I was still in Shopify. So a big lesson for me: don't just talk about buy and hold, but actually implement it. So considering all of these learnings, how do I plan to move forward? Well, I've realized that investing in individual stocks is fun and exciting, but of course it's quite volatile and a little bit time consuming in terms of actually doing your research and making sure that you understand what you're invested in and what's actually happening within each of those companies. So whilst I think it's going to be really valuable for me to move forward with the dividends approach, on top of this, I'm also now considering investing in some ETFs. I think to begin with, I might start with something pretty typical and simple, such as a fund that tracks the S&P 500. I've taken a look, and it seems like you can expect returns of about 8 to 10% in the long term. And if I can employ my buy and hold strategy, this will be something that would be more of a long-term investment. I think it'll also be a little bit easier and less tempting to buy and sell on the ETFs because they're a little bit less volatile. Not as much happens in terms of increase and decrease, and also, let's be quite honest, they're a little bit more boring. So whilst I'm not going to stop investing in individual stocks altogether, I think ETFs could add a little bit of diversification and a little bit of security to my portfolio. I think it would be remiss of me not to mention crypto because it's a very hot topic right now, and I have been trying my best to understand it over the last couple of months. And whilst I do understand the concept, and I think it's something that is going to be around for a long, long time, and we're only going to see it become more and more mainstream, I'm finding it really difficult to understand how to ascertain the value of the individual coins. So which coins are going to be the coins of the future, which ones are going to disappear. And so for that reason, although I'm going to keep my eye on it, I feel like it's probably better for me not to get heavily invested in something that I just really cannot wrap my head around right now. At this point, I honestly don't know if I just can't understand it or if nobody really knows yet and people are just taking massive bets. So I'm going to watch this one as a spectator and see what happens, but maybe look at getting into it when things settle down a little bit. And it seems to be the theme of my thoughts right now, but I'm also looking at another relatively boring and safe, to a certain extent, investment, which would be in silver. So part of this journey in investing is helping me to understand the other financial things that really I think everyone should be understanding in their own lives. And for me, one of those things is inflation, and I'm starting to realize that saving alone is probably not going to help me to become financially free because of inflation. And so I've started doing some research to understand that investing in precious metals such as silver can be one way to offset this threat of inflation, I suppose. Now, I have only just started looking into it, so I am not exactly clear on what my strategy is going to be yet, or even if this is going to be my strategy. However, it's just something to note, and let's watch this space because it could be a big part of what I decide to do in the future. So thank you so much for stopping by, and see you very soon.